All right, welcome to week 5. Our proper feature matches after a bonus match with featuring myself there uh, on my last stand. And we got Chris York, who's back with us in the feature match. I think he took a week off. And wow, looks like he's got a companion with him there. And he's going to be playing Jordan, and Justin's going to be looking at things from his point of view. So looks like Chris York has brought his Karuga the Macro Sage into his last stand here. He's on 10 losses, looking to stay alive. What's Jordan's deck looking like?
Well, so far right now, it looks like it's just straight up blue black.
Okay.
In this week where the decks are 80 cards, I wouldn't be surprised if you are splashing cards of another color. And you know, just to mention the companion for Chris, like this companion makes it so you can't have cards with CMC two or less in your deck. And I
Yep.
think that's a lot better this week, particularly because things are 80 card decks. People are less likely to have a 2 drop on turn 2 and less likely to get that fast start on you. So not having a 1 or 2 drop to play is not going to affect you as much as it would otherwise in other weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. If there was a week to try this, you know, this might be the one. So interesting, Chris. We saw him, I think, 3 other times, and he was running this base black-white deck, and he has completely shifted to a Grixis deck here. So maybe we'll see some of the cards that brought him down that road. There is a rare in his hand, Bergi, the God of Storytelling. So
Uh,
yeah,
I like that card a lot.
that's likely to be his play for the turn. His only other play is to bring Karuga into his hand, so he's going to drop this, and this can put him it can give him a mana advantage. So he has a bunch of expensive spells in hand: Bergstrider, Final Reward. He has a
Yeah,
Shimmer
okay.
Scale Drake, which has Cycling, Sanguine Indulgence, which gets back 2 creatures from the graveyard, but notably not another land. So and he's trying to capture Sphere, which doesn't do it either. So yeah, I guess Jordan is has some number of green cards in his deck as well
Yeah.
over there.
But yeah, Jordan's not drawing much action. He has a Rona's Vortex, which he could kick next turn to permanently get rid of this Bergie. Well, when I say permanently, I just mean like it'll be
Yeah,
unlikely to show up again in this match. But and he has Academy Journey Mage. The rest are all lands, so he's flooding out a bit here, and he desperately needs to find more action.
yeah. Putting a creature on the bottom, I would definitely classify as hard removal. It just takes it off the board, and it's in a way it's even better than putting it in the graveyard in almost every
Yeah.
sense.
Besides like a tutor or like a shuffle effect and drawing it naturally, you're never going to see it again. So
Yeah, so these supersized decks have we're seeing some cards you don't always see play, but in a lot of the cases, people are just playing more colors. I think. I think that's sort of the fix the fix to the problem of not having enough playables. It's like, well, just add a color. Yeah,
well, if last week hindered people from doing their strongest plays, though others still tried to go for it, this week is definitely the week that people will try to try and play the value game, just because the games are going to be so grindy and basically it's going to revolve around who can get the most value to win.
yeah. Well, that's what I was trying to do with my deck, and I was having a good time of it this week. And then Johnny cast his Boon of the Wish Giver in both of the games that he won, and he drew 4 cards, and I didn't. So yeah, that was the name of the game there. So what's Jordan holding here that he's just casting absolutely nothing turn after turn?
He has a drawn a total. He has a total of 10 lands.
Wow. So
Uh,
he's got
so but
so his
yeah,
hand is
besides
all
this,
lands then.
yeah, his hand is all
Okay.
lands.
So he kept, I
Yeah,
guess.
so
So what? So his keep was Rona's Vortex, the Splatter Goblin.
and Academy Journey Mage with 4 lands, and he's just been very unlucky here.
Oh,
Draws 6 lands in a row.
yeah, that's not great. And York's coming out of his mana problems now. He's going to be able to cast his things pretty reliably. Yeah, I haven't seen Jordan's deck at all this league, but lo and behold, I look at the standings, and he's knocking on the door of top 8 as usual. Very consistent performer. It's this is his 6th league here, and he's made top 8 4 out of his first 5. So yeah, he's just always a consistent performer. We saw him a couple times in DMU with his Haughty Jin Saltai Spells deck, and look, he's doing well this league, 14-9. So he's on the verge of top 8. So yeah, Chris has a few decisions here. He could decide what to do. He has a Psychic pickpocket in his hand. He could play.
Okay.
I think that's what he's going to go for. I think he just wants to find more lands here. I think like he just absolutely wants to draw lands. If he draws lands for the next like 3 turns, I think he's very happy.
I think if you're pickpocketing here, you're just targeting the Splatter Goblin, right? You don't really want to turn the other 2 creatures because they just get Steering Surveyor, even though it gets a land and he has plenty of it, he'll just still get a land, and he'll be happy to take out a land out of his deck at
Yeah,
this point.
he didn't
And
draw a
Journey Maze will
land.
just
Yeah,
bounce.
he didn't draw a land, but he drew Blood for Bones, which could be an interesting one later on. Yeah, he's gonna discard the Mistwalker. It's just the card of the least consequence here. Yeah, so he has three removals in his hand. He has a recursion spell. He has two recursion spells and Karuga. So he's set up. Like I said, I think he wants to find more lands. Yeah, another thing about Karuga is a lot of cards have like cycling or just alternate ways to use them for less mana. Like if
Yeah,
it's not cycling, it's some other mechanic where channel for. I mean, we haven't had Kamigawa like shown up, but like that's another one that comes to mind, right? You're channeling your 7 drop for 2 mana. Same like you're cycling
sure.
your 5 drop for 2 mana. So yeah, there's lots of just little ways to not make not make the downside be as bad. And like I said, this week the decks are kind of slow and trotting. So if
Yep.
this is the week, this is the week. And look, he draws two more cards here. He's got a Revel Runer, which is that 4 mana 3/1 menace, which connives, and he's got a Barium book. So he is just full of interactive spells here, and that's kind of good for him because he can just hold them. Because these creatures that Jordan has on the other side, they're not really cards he really cares to use any of these removals on. So any high impact plays from Jordan are just going to get met by some number of these removals. But he continues to play these small creatures.
Yeah, he's just playing. He's playing whatever he draws at this point. Like, notably, he did draw the Scouring Surveyor, but that's not exactly what I draw. It just gets a
No,
land,
that's basically
and
a 3 mana land, more or less. Because the
yeah,
1/2, I mean, it'll save you some damage for a minute here. Okay, so he's actually gonna cast the Glamorous Outlaw, not needing red. He has no red cards at all in his hand, so he's just gonna cast that. He's gonna lose. He's gonna lose his ability to tap for red, but he's gonna gain a 4/5 here. That's gonna scry him. Yeah, so he put a Sewer Crocodile on top, and he put a Bloodline Pretender to the bottom. So we saw that do work for him in previous weeks, but not really needed at this state.
yeah. So Chris just playing. You still playing patient here. Doesn't know if Jordan has anything. Obviously, we know he's holding three lands, but he doesn't trying to play around as the biggest blowouts he possibly can.
Yeah, well, he's basically offering 2-for-1s here. He doesn't want to trade the pickpocket for the
Yeah,
Splatter Goblin, but he's offering a 2-for-1 trade. He said, "I'll trade for any two of your creatures."
but yeah. So basically, I did notice when he was searching with Scaring Surveyor, he does have one plains and one mountain in his deck. So he has like cards of 5 colors in his deck.
Does he have a Golos or something like that? Maybe.
I'm not sure,
Yeah, could
but
be. He might have
it's
like
a nice
he
block.
might have a domain card. Maybe he has like a herd migration or something. If you remember
Ah,
that one.
okay, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know all what he has, but there's reasons why you would put those lands in your deck, and it doesn't have to be because you're splashing something of those colors. It could be something that cares about you having those. Yeah, so no lands here, but 8 spells. It's just a matter of deciding how he wants to use them. So unless Jordan draws something that really turns the game on its head, don't think it matters too much which of his cards he chooses to use. Yeah, he's not even going to chump block here. He's just gonna die to the agonizing siphon. Yeah,
Okay.
the no blocks meant that this agonizing siphon could end him here. So we got our classic screw versus flood, and as usual, the screw, which wasn't too much of a mana screw, but at the beginning it was. Screw beats flood. Chris York, as he does sometimes, he's submitted his deck with no thoughts of sideboarding here.
Oh, you did call it, by the way. He does have herd migration in his deck.
Yeah, well, I was just thinking, like, what cards would make you put exactly plains, exactly mountain in your Sultai deck? Uh,
So yeah, he's splashing. He's splashing. He has a white and red card in his deck. He's splashing for a Fiend, Scheming Seer, and a Freak Flame Painter from Strixhaven.
okay, yeah, those are high impact rares that can dictate the pace of the game. When they come down,
Uh,
depending on the board state. So not bad to splash, but yeah. Aside from splashing cards, I was like, Golos and Herd Migration would be the ones that came to mind.
yeah.
As like, I absolutely want all 5 colors to make this card better. Yeah,
For those who don't remember, a Freak Flame Painter is that 4 mana 1/4 double strike creature that if it deals damage to your opponent, you could cast a spell from your graveyard for free.
Yeah, and so you really had to block that thing, or else it could potentially cast two spells. Yeah, like I said, a card that can really easily warp the game around it in the right board. So what's Jordan considering here?
Jordan's putting in a lot of just like hate. Honestly, he put down a trial ambition, thinking that like Chris, because he's just playing a one big thing per turn, so
Yeah,
trial ambition is a lot more valuable. He's putting in more mind rots because Chris will not just be because the things that Chris discards are more are usually going to be high mana costed, so that also just more valuable than Jordan's average card.
yeah,
And yeah, just trying to play around this like matchup of Chris is just always gonna have like higher mana costed cards, which means that in the long game he will generally have an advantage.
yeah. Did he at all think about or start at any like lower cost cards to maybe try and go under this strategy, or more just let's punish him for being slow with mind rots and other things like that?
No, but I think even if you were thinking about that strategy, just the format of this week just makes it incredibly hard to just try and go under someone.
Oh yeah, it's really unlikely. You have to have a lot of two drops.
So yeah, he Jordan's putting in like what he thinks is correct to go against Chris's plan. And I think these are fine additions. Mind rots are genuinely good against people who try to go over the top. Because they're always gonna have cards in hand. So you're always gonna be hitting those two cards. It's not gonna be a dead card late in the game because they're always gonna have cards in hand.
Yeah, I mean
Uh,
Chris's strategy is face up here, right? He says
yeah,
I'm not going to be playing permanents until starting on turn three, so I don't have two drops. So he's saying everything in my deck is expensive. It's unlikely I'll be double spelling
yeah,
for most of the game. Like I'm not going to be playing my two drop and my four drop on turn six. I'm not going to be playing a one drop and a four drop on turn five. It's like one thing a
yeah,
turn. Um, you know, I didn't catch his. I mean, I wasn't able to count his lands, but I think this is a deck where you need to put more lands in this type of deck with crew because you have it every game, and you absolutely need to hit all your land drops, and you need to be efficient with your mana. This is a deck. If this
yeah.
deck misses land drops, it's basically
It's over.
finished. And
It's super crippling.
he actually missed. Yeah, he was actually missing land drops in the last game, but because Jordan was flooded like 10 lands, three spells, or whatever it was, um,
Yeah,
it came through. But in almost any other configuration of a normal looking hand, for Jordan, like that game, he would have been done for. Like this is a deck that cannot miss land drops at all. And he looks like he set up this game. Chris does. He has an extra 5 lands in hand now. Four. He has a Frost Lynx and a Deadly Alliance. So he's not blazing out of the gates here, but he has what he needs to keep himself in the game. What's Jordan looking at there? So skittering Surveyor aside.
he's gonna get a planes here because he does have his Rafine in hand.
Oh, neat.
Again, like I would like to have Rafine on turn three, but being able to follow up and play Rafine on any turn that you have available creatures to attack is just genuinely good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
But other than the Rafine, he has Epic Downfall as a premium removal spell, and he has Drana the Last Blood Chief. If Rafine were to be removed, Drana can just bring it back right back,
now
assuming Chris
that's
chooses that card.
now that's a bomb. I'm starting to remember now that I mean it was a while ago, but when we opened the pools, I think people were remarking that Jordan's pool looked quite strong based on that little image that we get of the rares.
Yeah,
I think
well,
I'm starting to remember now because Zendikar and DMU were two of the starting packs, and both those rares are complete bombs. Okay, so I assume he's intending on discarding. He's just gonna trade in his Skittering Surveyor for a Connive here. Okay, that's fair.
yeah, just wants to get rid of excess lands in his hand,
Yeah.
which I can understand. And he just ended up drawing another land, but before that loot, he had three other lands and two spells, so he just wants to find more, action.
Oh, yeah. So he does. So thanks to his Jaxus being a warrior, he can actually cast his Deadly Alliance through the ward here. So nice little interaction there. He got to kill it right away. Didn't have to wait a turn. He had his warrior in play. Yes, this Jaxus was a card that always seemed a little slow in Capenna.
Yeah,
Just took a while to get going. You have to it has to survive till the next turn. You have to pay mana. You have to discard a card. You have to have something worth copying. It asks a lot, but I mean, it does give you a lot. So yeah, this Drana is going to be a problem. The Frost Lynx is likely going to come and actually, if the Frost Lynx stays in play, he can trade one of his many lands in hand for a Frost Lynx every turn to
And that Frostlings will always be drawing a card because of the it was given uh I forget what the mechanic was, but the thing that
The
dies draw a
blitz,
card.
yeah, it essentially
Oh
gives it
yes.
blitz. It more or less, yeah, it basically gives the creature blitz. He's just going to do that right away with literally just lands and Karuga in hand. So this is kind of looking like it might be the reverse of last game here, with just a million lands here. Like, he's thinking about just doing that right now and getting the extra card draw. Uh,
Does he even have a second blue source to cast Karuga?
yeah, he has an island in his hand.
Okay.
Yeah, he does.
Okay, so
Yeah, Karuga
he's gonna
not
epic that.
trivially easy to cast when you're not playing blue and black. Or you're not playing blue and green, so it's not All right, so Karuga now he has a Bury books. I think he has to keep using his interactive spells here on this draw now, or else it's going to take over the game. Um, I think Jordan he has a Skittering Surveyor in his graveyard. I don't think he has anything else yet,
Yeah.
but even
Uh,
that
lu-
is just going to be really good.
yeah. So luckily for Chris, Jordan doesn't have much going on besides the Drana either. He drew Zahid, but can't actually cast it since he's missing his second blue source.
Yeah, he either needs an island or an artifact, I suppose.
Yeah. So here comes Drana. We know it's gonna get buried in books,
I wonder why he
and
doesn't just bury in books before the trigger.
oh yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I don't know. Yeah,
man. I just forgotten.
maybe he thought for a moment it's like when it deals combat damage or something like that. Oh, actually, this might have actually been
Oh,
yeah.
it's smart.
Yeah, and you can't get a legendary back, but now he actually, he has to not draw the card from the so this is kind of interesting. I don't know if it's a if it's an oops moment or if it's a secret savant moment of now he doesn't get to tutor the land. But I think you'd rather just do it before the attack either way. But this is kind of an interesting moment here that he at least denies that he at least denies the card draw. So the reason Rafine did not was not eligible is because Drana specifically states that a non-legendary creature is being brought
Oh,
back
I see.
from the graveyard.
Oh, but because like right now, he had to choose between being able to play Kazahid or drawing Drana in 2 turns, and I think he wanted just the instant, action play of getting a island and playing Zahid.
Yeah, so kind of secret. Maybe York is like fist bumping here. He's excited, but he's gonna be very unexcited when Zahid comes down with even an extra counter on it.
Yeah,
Oh no, the Skittering Surveyor is an artifact. Yeah, so
yeah.
6/7. Yeah,
So it
so
was a very
the Drana, I guess it ended up being a bit of a oops moment, I suppose, there with not doing it before combat. He's drawn. So Chris York has drawn the blank of all blanks here, a ley line of anticipation. Um,
okay.
Not a card you see very much in limited, but I guess if it's in your opening hand, you get to play it for 0 mana in your Karuga deck. So that's kind of funny. But not a card we
Yeah.
often saw too much in limited. It's hard to get enough out of that card, and the fact that it costs 4 mana. Like even when it's open and it's in your opening hand, it's almost like you mulligan if you get to play it for free.
Well, that's
So
the thing about ley lines, right?
it's a tough one.
You have to find a spot to be able to play it when it's not gonna affect you too badly, and then I mean at that point then you just have a static effect to help you out.
Yeah,
But
well, were you telling me about your main deck ley line
yeah,
in this
yeah,
league?
I made deck late on the void.
Yeah.
Just because there's a lot of graveyard interaction just between all the sets, and Lane of the Void stops that. And it's honestly, I thought it's pretty not great if you have to cast it
Oh yeah.
yourself. But
I
if it's in your
imagine.
opening hand, it's amazing.
Sure.
It's
Yeah.
amazing. If it's in your
Um,
opening hand, it's
yeah.
amazing.
So he's drawn the bigger, frostier frostlinks here with the Strider locking down the Zahid for a turn.
This actually might be good because now he can start putting pressure on Jordan's life total, and Jordan doesn't actually have anything to besides just the normal blocking to really stave off this aggression.
Yeah. Next turn he could unless Jordan puts down a big board presence, he can attack all pretty happily.
Jordan's gonna scry with his land again, really trying to find action here, and he has to pray that what he finds on top is castable this turn because he only has 4 mana access to.
Yeah, that was I was in a similar spot in my match against Johnny where it's like, I'm up against it. I would say I was more up against it than Jordan is here, and it's just like I could scry, but like what can I cast after? It's like I'm gonna have 4 mana or something, and
So
most of the things I'm gonna need that can help me are gonna cost more than 4 mana. So, but I mean he's not in absolute crisis mode yet. He does get to untap with his creature next turn. Oh, he has a Cartouche of Ambition now. So that can actually make the blocks even worse here. The blocks were
well,
already not great. He can even cast as an instant now in combat. Interesting.
so Jordan actually kept Selfless Glyphweaver on top, mostly just because he wants the board wipe portion on the back.
Oh,
I
the eight
believe.
mana, but he does have 3 black there, right?
Yes, he has 3 black there.
Yeah, I think it's called Deadly Vanity or something like that. Where it's basically if you remember the card Dune Blast from Konzatark here, you choose one creature, everything else. I believe it has the exact text destroy the rest.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's just gonna chump block here. He's gonna soak up the damage. So not sure exactly why he's. I guess gaining life, but this is like not entirely needed on this board, I suppose. But
I think if you're on the Frustra Strider, I guess because like there's less chance he gets blown out because it has ward.
yeah, it gives him a nice life bump. But choose a creature, planeswalker, then destroy all other creature planeswalkers. It doesn't have the clean Doom Blast text, or I think it says choose up to one creature, destroy the rest.
Yeah, so now he really needs to find Chris Roach needs to find something, and Jordan just has
Yeah,
Final Reward and Mage Hunter's Onslaught in his hand.
so he's got 3 turns there, and he can't block this. He needs a removal. So he has a Kelpie Guide which can tap it, but it will be removed. So the Kelpie Guide is it's a tapper. Once you have 8 lands, it can lock something down for every turn. And he's got a Moonlight Scavengers which can bounce it. So he's uh, he's able to keep himself alive here.
Leyline Anticipation actually doing a bit of work here, just because his creatures coming at flash speed make it so like Mage Hunter's Onslaught is not as good.
Yeah, if there was a week for it, this is the week. The week where the decks are slow, or it's likely to get the most value. Yeah, look at this. It's already about this is yeah, this is pretty nifty here.
He's gonna get bounced. It's gonna get replayed, but then he doesn't really have
Yeah, but
an
it's an extra
attack.
turn, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean obviously the upside is he doesn't go to 5. The downside is he doesn't get to attack unless Jordan has a removal. Okay, he's just gonna kill that. Replay the Zahid. So the Zahid will not be able to attack next turn.
yeah,
Um,
because he can respond.
he
He only
can
has
tap
Final
it.
Reward and he can response tap it. Yeah.
Yeah, he has a Girder Goons in hand here. Um, with the game the way it is, it might be best to just keep it for a blitz.
Yeah, maybe you tap the Zahid and attack for 4. But actually,
No,
you could do that next turn because Zahid
yeah,
will be tapped
yeah,
anyways.
he could do it. Yeah, that's he can do that next turn. He can. So is Jordan? Let's see, what's he drawn here?
He's trying. He's scrying upkeep.
Okay,
Uh,
he's crying. Okay, makes sense. Will he'll still be able to cast his final reward?
yeah, he'll still be able to
Yeah,
cast the Final
he'll have
Reward.
exactly 5. Yeah,
And I personally would have liked just to see what you draw because I think he was going to plan to cast Final Reward anyways because he needs to get this Kelpie guy off the board or else the Heat will never be able to attack. So it's like scrying here, like the value of scry is a bit less because if you draw like a spell, you could play that spell and still have Final Reward up. Obviously, he's scryed a land to the bottom and drew another land, but I feel like you get a bit more punished here if you drew a spell.
yeah. So he's gonna pass. Yeah, he's just gonna flash in the Girder Goons here, not blitzed, just as an
Okay.
attacker. I could see that hitting the final reward. It answers it cleanly because it exiles, and he doesn't get
Yeah,
his 2/2. So I could see being at 9 life. I could see him using that and just accepting that Zahid's going to be tapped until he finds something else.
yeah.
It,
Also, like Jordan does have again. The campus is doing a lot of work here. Like he has a
yeah,
that's his advantage over Chris right now. He has to scry one every turn, where Chris has to draw things naturally.
Yeah, so I think he's thinking about. I guess he's considering whether he wants to exile that or not. I imagine it's worth exiling, but he might have other thoughts.
I
Yeah,
think he was thinking
he's.
more like, does he want to do it now or on Chris's turn? And I feel like doing it now is fine, just because Chris is playing blue. There are counter spells at 3 mana, so you don't want to really walk into a counter spell at this point in the game, or else it could like shift a lot of momentum.
Yeah, the Grid Dragoons is a lot more of a difficult thing to have to deal with than this Tapper. Like, this Tapper is annoying for the time being, but going forward, he can find a removal for it. He can also just play more creatures. Chris York has Agonizing Siphon. That's the 3 damage to anything and 3 life, which, as with all of his cards, can be cast at instant speed.
So between the of one mine and golden egg, Jordan just found a lot of cards to play.
Okay, yeah. So he got a
He's
divination into a redraw. So
he's
and
found a
some
Queen of
life too.
Ice, which can tap the Kelpie Guide for 1 turn, which means Zahid will be able to attack next turn.
Yep, that makes sense. Yeah, and the golden life, the golden egg, will actually gain him some life here. So
Yeah, very nice.
just
Uh,
in case Chris York does draw a threat, he has a bit of a cushion. I mean, you know, I'm sure he'll be happy to gain the life.
Here comes the Queen of Ice, tapping the Kelpie Guide, but
Yep.
Kelpie Guide will in return tap the Zahid.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Kelpie Guide says untap another target permanent, so you can't just keep untapping itself. That they don't really make cards like that anymore.
Although that would be a bit less pointless. So I think Queen of Ice is gonna attract this agonizing siphon
It could be.
potentially.
I think he has enough mana that he can just see what he draws and wait, because he can cast it at instant speed. Okay, he's just gonna off this thing here. Makes sense.
Yeah, who knows if he has like a 7 drop in his hand, then he wouldn't be able to play both.
He's got a blood for bones here, so he's instantly looking at his graveyard and he sees some good things in there. There's the Frostfist Strider, there's Moonlit Scavengers, Karuga, Frostlinks, um,
Oh,
and
I,
it can be cast as an instant. Remember that.
yeah. I personally like getting doing it now, kind of doing it now, because he can get back, let's say like, or I guess he could do it on opponent's subkeep. He can get like Frostfist Strider and Karuga into play. Oh no, one goes to his
Well, yeah, one
hand.
goes to his hand. I think if you get Karuga into play, you'll only draw 1 card. So I think you want to get the Karuga in your hand to draw an extra card.
He can put the Frostfist Strider into play.
Yeah, and he could get Karuga in his hand, and then he'll draw 2 cards from the Karuga.
I believe Blood for Bones also just lets you get back the sacked creature. So he could like technically
Yes,
just
if you wanted
sack
to.
the Kelpie Guide and then get Karuga back in his hand. Oh, and
Yeah,
then he could
actually,
cast
I
instant
think
speed.
he probably needs to keep the Kelpie guide, right? That's his lifeline here, to not just die to this 5/6 flyer. This
I
is
mean,
going to
the
be
good news
interesting
is
how
that
he
he
chooses to
did
go
gain
about
three
this.
life. He did gain
Yeah,
3 life, so he doesn't get hit like he doesn't die in like three. He does die in like 3 hits,
yeah.
as
Well,
opposed to the like two before, where like if one goes through, then he actually needs to always keep the heat tapped or it needs to die. So
yeah,
I wonder if Chris goes for it here now because he tapped himself out.
yeah. I think he is just. Let's see what he decides here. He's looking at Moonlit Scavengers, but I don't. Okay, I guess he's choosing to bounce the Zahid rather than tap it. I guess it ties up mana, but that means he doesn't get an attack in.
Tying up mana isn't bad because again, like Lorehold Campus, he does have it. It still uses a lot of mana. Like 5 mana is still a lot considering now he has to cast a 6 drop.
Yeah,
So if he's gonna use the campus, he has to play the heat in the same turn, and that's just all his entire turn.
yeah. I could see just getting back the Frostfist to keep it tapped. It gets you an extra attack. It basically you're making Jordan spend 6 mana, but you don't get to attack. In the other sense, it's not taxing Jordan's mana, but you do get damage in. So he's chosen to tax his mana rather than to deal 4 damage here. Or
Well,
actually
this is a
more because he
problem
gets to
here.
flash in the Kelpie guide. And there's Adrana who's found her way back to the top of the deck after being shuffled.
Yeah,
Not good news here. It's pretty bad news for York here. So he's going to cast his Kelpie Guide, which can keep one of them tapped, but And a swamp here is very bad news.
Yeah, he's
So
kind of be forced to tap the Drana, and then can Zahid even attack at this point though? Because like I wonder if trading damage here is beneficial in a way.
oh, you mean just keeping the 5/6 back on blocks?
Yeah. Oh well, he hasn't entered the story on top, so now he's
Okay.
pretty withdrawing the into the story. I would if I were Jordan right now, I would like to just stay back because now you just secure yourself an advantage. You don't want to just die to potential top decks. Just consolidate your lead, and then eventually you'll drown them out in value because you're winning right now.
Yeah, this is giving me flashbacks to my match here against Johnny, where it was like, okay, we're both sort of top decking. Maybe he's a bit ahead, but we're just whoever draws the best cards is going to win, and then he just draws four of them, and then the game feels unwinnable after that. He's just going to get rid of the last card there. Yeah, so in a normal game where your opponent does not have a leyline of anticipation, Mind Rot is like going to be particularly bad because it's likely that your opponent just is holding a land. But when he has leyline of anticipation, the Mind Rot is just going to cause him to cast whatever he's holding. But in this
Yeah.
case, it just made him discard the land. So
So,
yeah.
so Jordan actually didn't draw too many things off the into the story. He drew Stolen by the Fae, which is a very good card, but the rest of the cards were
Wow.
lands.
Well, Stolen by the Fae is gonna end the game though.
Yeah, it's gonna bounce this Moonlight Scavengers and get six fairy tokens, I
Yeah,
believe.
that's just gonna end the game next turn unless Chris York finds a board wipe really. I think he's gonna get rid of the last card there, which is another island. Because he's just basically making Chris York, if he does have spells, cast them like in situations where he might not want to, but he didn't have them anyway. So there's the Fen Lurker. Yeah. So yeah, unless he has a board wipe, you know, Chris York is going to be. We're going to be going to game three here. Goes down to three, and then
Like I have to say, like this whole situation, like this back and forth, really just stemmed from the board wipe earlier in this game. Like if that board wipe didn't come, Jordan would have probably lost by now because his board was just severely less impactful than Chris's, and then the board wipe made it so he just had one creature and Chris had none.
yeah, and I mean, you don't want your board wipe to necessarily be 8 mana, but when you get to keep your best creature, yeah, I think maybe there was a pause there. Maybe Jordan was thinking of not casting it, like don't want to show him at the game's more or less going to be sewn up here, but no, he's just going to make sure that he's going to give Chris York basically has to draw a board wipe here or else it's not going to work. Yeah, so he can replay his scavengers right away, but you know that's neither here nor there.
And how good would Windstorm be right now? Just kill all the flyers.
I don't think that's in our format. I don't know if
No, it's
there's.
not. But it could if there was in this format, it would be quite brutalizing.
Well, did we open? We opened Amon Cat, right? There
Yes.
was that split card where the green side
Oh,
wrecked
okay.
all the
Yeah.
flyers for X and a
You're right.
green.
You're
I
right.
think it was X and a green damaged all flyers, and then the other side was all non flyers. The red half. But yeah, so I don't think he has heaven in his deck. So he's just posturing here with his swamp in hand because we are this is not going to be heavenly. It's going to be highly painful. All these little fairies are going to come poke him to death. And we'll get to see a game three here.
You know that
It's what we like to see
this
in
was
the
a very
future
good
of
game.
Terraria.
This was a sweet game of Magic the Gathering.
Yeah, we had a very interesting interaction with Skittering Surveyor and the Drana being put back into the deck there, which may have been an error on Chris York's part, but ended up actually taking the Drana away. But then he got to play the Zahid instead, and then drew the Drana anyway. So it was meant to be, I suppose, that that Drana was gonna be in play and when the game ends. And Chris York, I didn't even get to see anything. That was the fastest done I've ever seen. So we're
I I, bu-
just
I
we're just on the loading screen here while Jordan decides if he wants the sideboard.
I believe in this game, if he has a Bury in the books and Adriana's in play, he might consider doing it before attacks. But
Yeah, the discount there wasn't doing anything like for him. It wasn't like he only had the 3 mana; he had the full mana to cast it. So yeah, that was a very strange interaction where he actually would rather just play the Zahid as a 5/6 immediately than draw the Drana in 2 turns. So what's he thinking about sideboarding
he's
here?
currently just looking through his sideboard at the moment.
Okay, makes sense.
Hasn't really pulled any cards in or out. So really just thinking about if there's anything really that can give him an edge in this matchup. As we saw in last game, the Mind Rot that he brought in wasn't very useful. I mean, he did draw at a very unopportune time, but didn't end up being that useful. Uh, he's
Yeah.
he, he's putting Skemfar Shadow Sage just because it has high toughness,
Okay.
and he did see a lot of just like not there wasn't many creatures in Chris's deck that had more than 5 power or more, so he figures that maybe he can just block it a lot of things with his 2/5.
Yeah, that makes sense. Seems good.
And that's what he's putting in. That's his only change.
Yeah, mind rots are hard to use, right? Because like you don't want to do it early game because that means you're not playing to the board and your opponent probably has cards that they don't care about. And then like when you draw it super late in the game, it's usually really bad if players are top decking and you're getting down to the final turns. It's like in that turn 5 to 7 range when you can get like maybe the last 2 cards in their hand. And yeah, so Chris York sent back a 2 lander here with not much he could cast, and he found a 0 lander and is now going to have to claw his way here with a claw his way out of a 5 card hand here, which he is going to keep this, but you never
I mean,
you never like to
on
see
the
that
bright
here.
side for him, Jordan doesn't have much going on. He has like 4 forest and island, and his only castables are like psychic pickpocket and Gallagrators. So Gallagrators, while being a good card, it does need other creatures to be cast alongside it to actually be used to its full effect. So having it on turn 2 and then your next play being on turn 5 will, doesn't really show that you have much going on.
Yeah, so Chris York put a capture sphere, and I think it was called Turgid Shadow. Each player sacks 2 creatures on the bottom, keeping 2 lands here. Those cards are going to get shuffled back, so he may draw them, but unlikely with the 70 plus cards in deck. Yeah, so he has Coma's Faithful, a Shimmer Skull Drake, and a Savai Crystal. So, like I was stating at the beginning of the last game, you absolutely can't miss your lands. Even when you mull to 5, you still kind of need to hit your lands because the whole thing is that Kruga catches you up, right?
Yeah.
Kruga gets you back some of those cards. So, he kept both of his lands and the Savai Crystal as a mana source, which I don't think he's planning on cycling that anytime. He's gonna
He might
cycle.
just
He
cycle the
is gonna
Shimmer
cycle
Scale
the
Drake.
Drake, though. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
He draws another land here and a Frost Trickster. So he's got all the Frost creatures. He's got the full suite. He's got the Frost Trickster, the Frost Lynx, and the Frost Fist Strider. And the Berg Strider. He's got them all. He's got
Yeah.
Frost Tribal here.
So
Rarely
yeah,
seen. Rarely seen Frost Tribal, but honestly, those are like, especially Frost Trickster and Frost Lynx being 3 drops. Those are the exact kind of cards you need if you're running Karuga, right? Those are the cards that are gonna give you the time that you need. And then the
yeah,
Frost Fist
just
Strider and the Bergstrider can help end the game.
the thing you want from Karuga is like your 3 drops to be really impactful, and these are kind of the most impactful 3 drops that you can really have.
Yeah.
Besides, outright killing creatures.
Yeah, so he's opted to tap down the Gala Greeters and start attacking rather than cast the Bushmeat Poacher, which was his draw last turn. He is going to cast that now. He also has a Midnight Assassin in hand, which is the 3 mana. I believe it's a 1/2 is with Flying and Death Touch.
Okay, so Jordan has drawn his swamp, which means he can cast the Mind Rot, but he's at 5 mana, so he's just gonna play a psychic pickpocket just a lot better.
Yeah, it makes sense. And I mean, in the intervening turns, with while Jordan was not really doing too much and got his Gala Greeters tapped down, Chris York got him down to 12, but um, he's gonna need some timely draws here. Chris is in order to keep this pressure on, and he gets to gain 2 life from the Gala Greeters.
Yeah.
Like which
Oh,
is which
Jordan's
is
drawn.
like that's like the option that is like usually chosen last in most games,
Yeah.
unless it's super late in the game and you need the life. But like normally in the early to mid stages which we're in, you're almost always getting a treasure or a counter. But yeah, he sees that he's under pressure and he does not want to die here. Yeah, so instead of casting the Midnight Assassin, he's just going to get the Krug in his hand. So they'll reload his hand here.
So Jordan has actually drawn Stolen by the Fate end into the story, but
Wow, okay, but no
his mana
blue.
base is showing his mana base is showing very difficult situations here. Not having black at first to be able to cast Mind Rot before his Psychic Pickpocket, now don't not having double blue to cast his more powerful spells, and even if he Mind Rots here, like Karuga's just gonna draw 3 cards.
Yeah, yeah, and he had some dual lands last game, but they weren't of his main colors. He had like Lorehold Campus. He had I think he had the black red land from Dominaria. It's just like the card, like they're dual lands, but they aren't the dual lands that are helping him cast his spells. They're dual lands that are like helping his 5 color card shine. So he's gonna be patient here. He's gonna hope that there's not another mind rot or I think it was called the Fenlurker there to grab the Krug out of his hand. I
Well, he's
think
drawing a
I
second
think
blue card.
I think me personally, in the situation mulliganing to 5, I think I would have just played the Kruger there for the 3 cards, but looks like he wants 4 cards.
So he's just gonna bounce the Fenlurker, get 4/1/1. No, he's gonna bounce the Spectre, get 4 fairies, and
Yeah,
get 3 Galagrator triggers, which is all of them. So,
yeah, that's one way to do it.
and then after this turn, he's just gonna be able to draw 4 cards, albeit for 7 mana. So he won't really be able to do anything next turn.
Yeah, so I think Chris York's getting the better deal as far as card draw, which is play a 5 mana 5/4 that draws cards rather than tap 7 mana to draw cards. But you get the cards either way. So this game's looking pretty even. Both players are going to try and break the symmetry here, but York is going to return the favor with 4 cards of his own next turn.
Okay, so he has drawn Trial of Ambition, which he's gonna use to deny a card effectively.
Yeah, so I figure the non-flyer is going to hit the bin here.
He
And
declared
those
those
three
3.
cards are pretty
There are some
impactful cards
big hits.
milled over on Jordan's side there.
Yeah, I noticed that.
And I mean the Sanguine Indulgence is relevant, but 2 lands in the graveyard. York is probably pretty happy with that mill. Jordan's probably unhappy with that mill, I would say.
He milled his board wipe that turned the game the first game. He
Yeah, and
milled a really
Zahid.
good and Zahid. Like
Yeah,
now, Karuga comes here
and a
draw 3.
removal. Yeah, and they're okay. So he's drawn an Animal Sanctuary, that other card that we saw come up time after time, and I believe he does have a bird in play. The Frost Trickster, if I recall, is a bird. So there's that. He's drawn a Spinning Wheel, which is another fixer, Revel Runer, and the Barium Books was in his hand for a couple turns now.
Yeah, Jordan's not looking at much. Has 4 lands, a Rona's Vortex, and a Boreal Outrider, so he's definitely has less gas than Chris York. Will be able to play cards and stay alive, but at the moment, Chris York does seem to have the edge.
Yeah, and I mean, if the game gets to a stall, Spectre of the Fens does have text that requires attention.
Yep.
But Gala Greeter can get life when it needs to. So that Spectre of the Fens only deals 2 at a time. Yeah, so basically, this Boreal Outrider ensures that every creature that Jordan plays from here on will enter with a +1 counter.
Counter. Yeah. Wondering if the attacks are good.
Can't
To
really
to the,
attack
to the
here.
viewer, probably not. The attacks aren't very great. Your fairies just get blocked by these flyers, and then like Kuruga just blocks Pickpocket. He will run his Vortex here. I don't know what. It's either between Spectre Defense or Kuruga.
It's one of the. It's got to be the 2/3 flyer. All right, so Krizark's drawn a land, which I mean he has stuff to do. So he's going to play a Spinning Wheel, and then I assume he's going to play his Revel Runer and look to discard the swamp that he just drew.
Oh, that's the Connive 3/1 menace.
Yep, it's a Cephalid Rogue.
That card's not bad on this board. Having the opponent have to force the double block it is not a bad thing.
Okay, and he's drawn a Corpse Appraiser here, which is going to get him a look at another 3 cards and gets to pick the best one out of those. He's going to attack with Kruga. He's basically saying, I'll trade it for 2 of your creatures, no problem. You're at 12, so can't really take it. You can maybe take it once, but I could see him trading pickpocket and a token here
Yeah,
if he chooses
I
to
could
block
definitely
it.
see that as well. The Runner's Vortex might be used here just because like, but I think personally, with it being your only removal, you might just want to trade off creatures, which you have plenty of, as opposed to just get rid of this Karuga.
Okay,
But also
yeah,
maybe deciding that Chris has more recursion, so he doesn't really want to make Karuga in his graveyard just so he could play it again.
yeah. He's getting rid of the biggest creature. I mean, you know, can't be too sad about that. Yeah. So here's an acolyte coming with a counter. So no, I think all of his main colors are squared up. So that acolyte's not gonna the mana ability is not gonna help him cast something that he couldn't otherwise. I don't think. No, he has all of his main colors here.
You're looking to go aggressive here. He has nothing left in his hand and figures that maybe he needs to try and win the game.
Yeah, we can
Uh,
definitely attack with these creatures. Yeah, I don't know
yeah.
if yeah this could be yeah, I don't know if I would at a reasonably high life total, what 21. I don't know if I'd block with my flyer there, because as soon as this Spectre of the Fens gets removed, which might at some point, that those tokens kill fast. So the Corpse Appraiser is going to come down, and Chris has also drawn another rare here, Shakedown Heavy, and okay, so he's looking at a Girder Goons, an All Seeing Arbiter, which he's taking in his hand, and one of your personal favorites there, the Elemental Masterpiece.
All-seeing arbiter.
But he's gone for the All-Seeing Arbiter here
Oh man.
over the Masterpiece. Yeah, that's a good one. He's something's going on when you're discarding Burying Books to your All-Seeing Arbiter here, because the other cards in his
Oh
hand are
my
Shakedown
god.
Heavy, Murder, and Kelpie Guide. So
Like, like Jordan's trying to turn into a pumpkin, but even if you turn this arbiter
I
into a
don't
pumpkin, and
I
it,
don't
it
know if
just comes back
that's
next turn, and this card just is unbelievable. It just draws you a card every time it enters the battlefield or attacks, while completely neutralizing your opponent's creatures
well, it's
every time you discard a
better
card.
than draw a card. It's you draw two, discard one, so you're up a card, but you get even selection.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this
this
card's
was
unbelievable.
this was a card I was very happy to actually forge from a pack in week two when I won a match, and I wasn't playing blue yet, but I said if I end up playing blue, I'm going to want this. I was playing black green for the first couple weeks, but I said this is good enough to take, and if I ever end up in blue, which I did, uh, this will be a star. Right, so he's going to get in for three here. I mean, Chris York can take it. He's at 17. So what else is in Jordan's hand here?
He's drawn the cast down off the pump turn to a pumpkin, but the rest is just lands. So the
Okay.
cast down will be able to deal with the arbiter,
Yeah, he does
but
get another
then
trigger
this
here, but
yeah.
so
Does he have anything else to follow this?
as Arena does, it's tapped all of his lands except for the Animal Sanctuary. But no, he doesn't have a way
Okay,
to
so
save it. But
smart of him to do it now because that means the arbiter doesn't make it so one of Jordan's creatures is completely useless.
yeah, it won't get the minus power trigger. Yeah, so Christmas is drawing another interesting rare here, Bergie, which at this point you probably want to cast for the backside, the horn.
He might actually cast it from the front side. He is under aggression from the ground a bit, and he can't really
Yeah,
afford to
but
take that much
he,
damage.
he does have a 6/4 he can cast instead.
Okay, so the six
Yeah,
four is probably trading off Gallic Greeters for to attack.
yeah. Yeah, I didn't mean cast the horn this turn because he doesn't have mana to cast spells, but I think he does
Yeah.
want it for the horn. Um, you know, if it was literally his only other creature in hand, I could see him just casting it to block. But since he had other options, he gets to keep it and maybe get some card advantage here. We've seen a lot of cards drawn this game. I can't say I'm unhappy to have seen all these cards be drawn on both sides.
I think if you're Chris here, you may just block with the shakedown heavy.
I would imagine that I would be looking to block here. Yeah, because he's got he's going to be up on cards here. He's going to get this horn. He has a befuddle, so not the greatest draw in the world here. Uh,
Could have definitely used that last turn, but
he's probably just gonna cycle at some point.
yeah, Jordan for his turn has drawn the tap land. Albeit he'll be able to draw a card off that tap land, but definitely far away from the card you hoping to draw to kind of keep the game in in your favor.
Yeah, if only I had a befuddle against Johnny and his Evra Halcyon witness.
Oh, that interaction has always been really funny.
Yes, I think I got to do that once back in Dominaria, where I got to reduce Evra's power to zero, and then flip, and then opponent was, with the trigger on the stack to switch their life total. So that's funny. Well, more card draw. Yeah, this is the game for me. I would say this is definitely the game for me. This is just card draw everywhere.
Well, here's the read the tides into winged words because he only drew 2 lands and a winged word, so he needs to find even more action.
Yeah, I
And
wish I had this much card draw in my deck. I had a few card draw spells, but he just has like he has the draw four. He has the other divination, um, the one from Ikoria that you could get a cost reduction on it. He's just he's got all the fun card draw here.
I think Jordan is investing in a bunch of real estate because that's all he has right now.
Really, his hand is how many lines? All of them?
Yeah, all of them.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, he's a real estate tycoon right now.
Okay.
So
So
that's not the game we're
this
playing.
is
So
actually interesting here. This ominous sphinx, he can get triggers off of the horn to reduce power of creatures. Because the horn asks you to discard cards.
so he can attack with the Spectre here for like a little cheeky attack, and if he tries to, you know, block, he just gets to eat fairies for kind of free.
Well,
And if he attacks,
not kind of free. He gets to draw
yeah,
cards.
yeah, he gets to draw cards
the
and
the horn
basically eat
doesn't
them,
cost any mana to use, so he'll have
and then
five
he can
mana
just
left
untap it.
over. Okay, so he's just gonna wait a turn here. Uh, don't, he could have probably tried to attack here, but so this is really interesting. This horn with this ominous things. It's like you know you're discarding cards to draw cards, but also you know your opponent's creatures are not able to block you properly. Well, here's another divination here. He does
And the
have to
deck
pay. He
says you
does
have
have to pay the full three, but
the deck says you have more real estate. He's got 7 lands and a Rafine in hand, so I think one of these fairies is going to town.
yeah, I think this fairy. I mean,
I
I
mean, he
mean,
actually
he
attacking
could
with all
he
fairies,
could attack with all of them, but I mean, he's sending two of them into their death. He does get to draw what?
4 cards, and loot away
One of
4 of these
them,
excess lands.
and one of them gets all the connive triggers, but if they're all lands, doesn't matter. He's not even
Yeah,
going to let him go to combat here with his murder. Makes sense.
yeah. The
He
Rafine was
knows.
actually a really good draw, but the murder makes it so
He's not going
all
to.
these
He's,
lands are
he's not going to
staying.
allow creatures to go to attacks when they have attack triggers. He figured that one out from the last game. If it says it does something when it attacks, don't let them attack.
Yeah, Jordan wanted to sell off his property, but Chris said no, you're keeping them.
Yeah, but I mean, Chris must be like moderately scared. Opponent has 6 cards in hand and six
Yeah,
mana. He must be like, there are so many things he could have. There are so many ways that all of this can go wrong. And though it is passing priority because his lands don't actually have any abilities.
yes. Arena is giving us the safety measure that Chris did not know he had.
Yeah, so if he's clocking this, and he even has mana left over to put a counter on his Frostlinks with the
Look,
Animal
it's a cat.
Sanctuary.
It's a cat. Okay.
It's the Frostlinks is
Nice.
definitely it's an elemental cat, but it is still a cat. Yeah, so he's
So
just
just gonna block the
gonna
highest power, taking 5.
yeah. So this game is more or less wrapped up here. Unless no,
Oh,
he can't even draw his board right because it's in his graveyard.
once Chris draws a land, he could activate Spectre twice in a turn.
Yeah, I don't even know if he has that in mind. I think he's just trying to kill with these attacks. But yeah, that's another avenue of damage here. Did he draw something other than a land here?
No, he's drawn a Shadow Sage, so that can give him 3 life because he has 3 fairies.
Okay, that's something. It's
Uh,
not. I mean,
yeah.
it is objectively better than a land.
Okay, so he decided that he can't win this game, and
Well,
like
that's going to
the
be
more
it.
real estate
And
you have in this game doesn't
yeah,
mean you
so
win.
Chris York stays alive. He does what I could not, and he keeps himself alive here for another match. So congratulations to Chris York. Really fun match there, and we'll be back in a little bit with the next feature match.